Here's some reality. Travel MLMs do not last. Okay? They usually last 2 or 3 years. They usually get shut down. This and that and the other thing. UITB, there's going to be some other ones that will be closing shop. Al, why does GRN, why are we in a stronger position?
Basically because of the planning, pre-planning, and the sitting down with attorneys and figuring out exactly the structure that would preclude any problems with the regulatory agencies that would create the situation where we'd have to go out of business. So, luckily, that's the way it was planned and executed, and we have had no trouble with any regulatory agency, no states, nothing. There's been a couple of questions, but then when they're answered, there's no further follow-up. And it's simply because it was organized in a way that fit the letter of the law in the industry, and there's never been any problem.
Yeah. And what's your history with MLM? You grew up in MLM, Amway, pitching things, rallies?
No. I didn't do any MLM. Any. I had a company that was in the engineering business, and I sold it. And then I was semi-retired. Got bored in a hurry, the typical story. And so I was a timeshare owner, and I said, well, let's do timeshare, just to have something to do, and I did, and I...
Selling timeshare.
Selling timeshare. And I sold it in Arizona, California. I went to Cabo San Lucas and sold it. And became project director, the whole thing. But I became disillusioned that I didn't think it was good enough value for the people who bought it. So
it was the curse. You're selling the curse, the timeshare ownership.
Timeshare, if it's used and it's proper, if you describe it in a certain way, it makes sense. Obviously, billions of dollars of timeshare are sold every year. But I didn't think it had the value. I didn't like the high cost and the annual fees, the things that you all are well aware of in terms of that. So I started looking around for something else, and something in the travel business, because I was convinced that people benefited from travel. So I found a company in Florida that in fact gave all the benefits of timeshare with none of the
burdens.
None of the burdens, but I was going to say curses, but you've already said that. But that company was out of Orlando, and I talked to them, and after a whole lot of talking...
Now, did you plan were you thinking MLM?
I was not thinking MLM. I didn't think much of MLM. I was exposed to a lot of MLM, and I didn't like it. So
This is what I like about the story.
I didn't. I thought it was a kind of a
pyramid.
Well, that's what it is. They're kind of pyramid-y and they're kind of scammy. So I wasn't interested. But the same thing could be said of a lot of things, including timeshare. So in any event, I was not thinking of that. So I was thinking just in terms of a travel club, where I could sell memberships in the timeshare manner. Have a group like this, describe all the benefits, and sign you up, which is what timeshare is. But while I'm doing this and getting ready and contracting with a travel club, somebody says to me in my ear, "You ought to set this up as an MLM." And I said, "What do you mean?" And that started. And so I said, well, okay, I've got some predispositions against the MLM industry. What would it take for me to organize it where it wouldn't happen? So that's what led me to, okay, the MLM industry, one of the biggest problems is you never know about the product. You got to have a certain confidence in the product. The pay plans are they can get a little different. There's lots of issues. So I said, all right, after a lot of thinking, I said, if I can start an MLM company with integrity and a great pay plan, and people get paid when they're supposed to get paid and the amount they're supposed to get paid, the whole thing, and have a product that people can live by and benefit from, they and their families, then I'll do it. And that's what led to Global Resource Network. And that was I went to the best lawyer there is in the business. I says, give me the parameters that if somebody in the regulatory agency was looking at me, what would they be looking for? And so they said this, 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 and this. And that's what I did, exactly what they said. And that's why we don't have any problems, because technically speaking, it doesn't cost anything to get into the resource network. It does cost you if you want the travel benefit. But that's, see, now right away, by not having to pay to get into Global Resource Network, there's no pyramid. So everything was structured exactly in a certain way to comply with all the requirements. So and that took a long time. Then all the software and getting it all ready. But finally in late '06, we started with a launch. Not the official launch, that's when it started. So you don't find too many MLM companies that are around from '06.
Travel especially. Travel.
No travel.
TBI Express, what was that thing? That scammed through the system and people made money, and then they scammed on out. YTB comes up and that thing fizzles, and there's all these fizzles, but the deal was, Al set this up, and before I joined, I called him, I flew down to the office, I talked with him, because I wanted to anchor my family wealth on this company. This was before I was thinking anything co-owner or anything at all. It was just like, I want to anchor a bunch of wealth in this company. And I saw, well, what I liked about him was he was an MLM. Because we all know what the feeling about MLM is. And he was not of that cut. He was a real businessman, integrity. The product was real. It wasn't an opportunity. And then we thought, well, let's go find a crappy product to make a bunch of money with. And nor did he want to make a bunch of money and ditch it. And so the whole superstructure was just firm enough where I thought, I'm going to plant here. And that's what I've done. I've planted there, and it's literally funded every dream I've had.
For example, if someone joins the Global Resource Network, they get two benefits. One is the travel benefit, which is lifetime and you can use it. Gold Crown Resort. And the other is the business opportunity. If you want to sell memberships in Global Resort Network, I pay you a commission. Right? Now, if anything happens to Global Resource Network, and we went out of business, you still have the travel benefit. It was designed such that you're never going to lose that. And they've been in business since 1986, and they're leaders in the field. So you had a product that you could live with. And he's sounding enthusiastic, but he was enthusiastic to a certain level when he was getting going. But when he took his first vacation, and when he got exposed to the value, the true value of the product, he became a convert, more of a convert. And he really he's been pushing since. And he's made his money since. Because he was convinced that he was doing something of value to the people he was selling the membership to.
Yep.
Which is a big deal. Now, there's a lot of people in the MLM business, they don't care about that. But the one thing we wanted to have is a product that could stand on its own and was valuable, and you could, if anything happened to me or the Global Resource Network, you still had the travel benefit. You never lost that, and it didn't take but 1 or 2 vacations to get your money back.
Yep.
And you had a lifetime, and you could always transfer it to somebody else. There was a transfer fee, but you could do it. So I developed, that was a valuable product. So you can sleep at night knowing that which you are representing to people, they're going to get, and they're going to get value out of it.
Awesome.
Huge. Let's get, Al is a huge, he's one of my top 5 mentors. I mean, I'm learning, not just learn.
Yesterday you said I was his top.
Please don't lie that publicly. I mean, I've learned so much from him, and am learning so much from him. And it's all that game about just take it, you've got to connect with the next level. He knew how to create wealth at the next level.